don't let the fact that we're recording stop you from asking questions, because this is a super important thing that we're going to be talking about today. It's a big change. And what we're talking about is the new communications module. And hopefully this is not coming as a shock or a surprise to anyone. We have been sending newsletters about this since July, when this, actually I think since June. We previewed it in June, and then it went into effect in July, and then we sent another newsletter in August, and then another one in September. So hopefully this is not shocking or surprising to anyone. If it is, then that means you have not been getting our newsletters. You can sign up to make sure you're getting the newsletters at the webinar sign up, the webinar registration page, fundlyevent.com. You scroll all the way to the bottom and there's a newsletter sign up. I'm pretty sure you're all on the newsletter though, so you can sign up again in case you think you're not. But if you haven't been getting the newsletters, you also want to check your spam folder, and you may have to contact your email provider and ask them to whitelist Fundly, all emails coming from @fundly.com. We find a lot of our clients, our newsletters are going to your spam folders or getting blocked by your domain providers, and then you're not getting all these fabulous updates that tell you, by the way, we're completely changing the communications module in 2 months. Be prepared. So what have we done to your communications module? What are we talking about, Terry? What is happening to us? Well, what's happening is we have made some very significant changes to the communications module, which from your main menu is everything that's under this communications tab. So that includes all of your templates. That's templates for event invites, event notifications, event auto confirmations. That includes your newsletter templates, donation acknowledgement templates, and all of the entire family of donation acknowledgement templates, which includes donation letters, tribute cards, and year-end thank yous. Also includes changes to labels and letters, which is the native in-system mail merge functionality, where you can produce print letters and print labels and envelopes. So all of that's getting a change, and it's not just the templates, but it's also the functionality of all of those items as well. So today is not an in-depth webinar on how to produce a communication. I'm not going to walk you through the entire process of generating a donation acknowledgement letter, for instance, or a newsletter. There are separate webinars where I cover kind of the soup to nuts of how to use those particular functionalities. Instead, today is a high-level overview of the changes and what we have changed and what's different, and kind of the changes to functionality, buttons, layout, and flow. And there are some very significant flow changes. So this is sort of for expert level users, people who are already using communication and kind of know how it works in the old interface, to highlight for you the changes so that when this goes into effect on Monday, you're not going to be floundering. So that's what today is all about. Like I said, as we go through, if you have any questions, do not hesitate to ask them, because this is your last opportunity to ask them. And I don't want anybody to come in next week and need to produce 100 donation acknowledgement letters and be completely lost and confused and not know what to do, and not be able to generate their newsletter or their donation acknowledgement letters or whatever. So make sure you ask. You can, of course, always send us a support ticket later as well. If you don't get a chance to ask your questions or think of questions later, certainly email us at support@fundly.com. So there's a whole bunch of stuff to hear. We're going to go, everything important for you to know is going to be every second of this webinar, including right up until the end. So again, I am recording this session, so if you have to sneak out early and don't finish, look for the recording to be added to the support library later today, and access it so you can get the information at the end, which is going to be just as important, because there's some very, very important pieces at the very end that you guys need to know. Mainly about like what doesn't migrate and how the migration is going to work. Very important stuff that you want to know. So what's happening? Well, we have completely revamped the communications user interface. We haven't taken away any functionality. You can still create newsletters, donation acknowledgements, etc. And everything works pretty much the same as it currently does, but there's some flow changes and there's some interface changes. Now, the first thing that's going to change after you switch to the new communications module is your main menu. So you're going to notice that this is a little bit different. In the current communications, there's an area called Manage Templates, and all your templates are in one place, and all of your communications are in different places, right? Newsletter is in one place, donation acknowledgement a different place, so that you have to move around to 3 or 4 different areas of the system to access all your communications. One of the things that is changing with the new communications is everything is in one place now. This history will show you the history of all communications you have sent, regardless of type. So if it's a donation acknowledgement, if it's a year-end thank you letter, whether it's a newsletter, it is now all here on this new history tab. And you're going to be able to see what kind of communication it was that was sent. You can search from here. You can search by type of communication and whether or not it went through or whether it failed to send, and whether it was email or print. And we're going to talk about this in a second, and the date that it was sent. When you go in to look at one of these communications, you can go in and you can still view your summary statistics as you could before. So you'll be able to see how many people opened and how many clicked and whatnot. And there's a preview button. We had to temporarily take it away. They're revamping it a little bit. It'll be back in a few days. But there'll be a button here that says preview. And if you click on it, you'll actually be able to see a copy of what you sent out to your contacts, which is not really something you can do right now. You have to go to your manage templates and look at the template to see the content, like of the newsletter that you sent. Now you'll be able to see that here from the history with that preview button. Pending is communications that you've started drafting but haven't sent yet. So in process, in draft mode, newsletters, year-end thank you batches, etc., are going to now show up here on pending. And again, it's every type of communication together in one place, and you can sort and filter by that. So you'll be able to see here. So this is a batch of year-end thank yous that have been generated but not sent yet. And this is a newsletter that is draft but hasn't been sent or scheduled to be sent yet. And same thing from here, I can delete something that's in process, and edit will take me back in to pick up where I left off in that process. Because everything's now in one place, the flow for creating all new communications basically starts from the same place. Now the exception to this is event invites and event notifications and event automatic registration confirmations. You still generate those from inside your event. So you still go to the event, open the event, go to the event notification tab, and pick your template and send your event notification from inside the event. But all your other communications, you're going to start from the same place, which is create new communication. This replaces the template area. And you're going to notice this looks very different, completely radically different for navigation and whatnot. So you now have 2 tabs. You have My Templates, which are templates you've created, and you have System Templates, which are the system defaults that come with your system. Now in the old communications, we were kind of using the word template 2 different ways, which caused confusion and mayhem. Usually a template, the most commonly accepted usage of the word template, right, is like a master layout file, right? So if we think of a newsletter template usually is something that's laid out, but it doesn't have the content. It doesn't have your articles that you're trying to send to your constituency, right? A newsletter template has your header that maybe has your logo and a picture, and it's got the boxes laid out of where your articles will go, whether that's maybe you're doing 2 across, you're doing side by side, right? And you're doing 2 articles, left and right column, and then below that a new row, left and right, and you're doing 2 articles, 4 articles, 6 articles, 8 articles per newsletter. Or maybe you're just doing 1 across, you know, sort of like, you'll see, scroll down here. So, you know, maybe you're just doing 1 across, like this yellow one right here, or the brown one where it's just 1 article per row. Or you're doing something fancy like this green one or this blue one. So that's a template in general. In the old communications, we were also using a template to mean your content file, and that you had to edit the base master template to also add the content, which meant basically if you were doing a monthly newsletter, every month you were copying your newsletter template from the previous month and updating the content, right? You had to make a new template every month, basically, or every time you sent a newsletter, or otherwise you were overwriting the previous content that you sent and you had no way of seeing what you sent the previous month. One of the main reasons for this new communications module is because of that fact. And we wanted to make the system stop doing that so that you could just have a base template. You could have one newsletter template and you could use the same template every month and add your content without erasing the base template or changing the base template, but also not losing what you sent the previous month. And that's how the new templates work. Every time you use a template, you make a copy of it. But that copy doesn't get added to your templates folder. That copy only ends up attached to the communication that was sent in the history. Does everybody understand that? Is everybody following me when I say that? So when I go to, if I click use here to use this newsletter, I'm not actually going to make any changes to this base system template. I'm going to create a copy of it, and then I can drop my content into that copy. And when I send that newsletter, I haven't made a new template. That content file is not going to show up anywhere here in the Create New Communications. I will be able to see it when I click that preview button when I go to the history. Okay, I'm going to assume everybody's still with me, so good. So system templates are ones we have provided. You can copy these templates and change them. By the way, guys, I'm going to mention my computer is acting funny again. I'm noticing things are shivering. My computer's been acting up all day. If I suddenly appear to disappear out of the webinar, hang tight and stay, and I will be back. My computer keeps crashing and it's having a little meltdown, the poor thing. It needs a spa day or something. So if I look like I disappear, it's me, not you, and my computer crashed, and I will be right back in. So I just wanted to add that. So system templates are ones that come with the system. My templates are ones you have created. You can copy system templates. And so here's a donation acknowledgement I can copy. This one I can copy. If it doesn't give you the copy option, if it only gives you use, if you go in and you pick use, you will then be able to make a copy by doing save as template. So if there's a master template, a system of one that we created for you that you kind of like, but you want to change, like you want to change the colors or you want to change the layout of the boxes, then you can always copy it and it'll be saved to your My Templates and become your template, and you can edit the template. And again, when I'm using the word template in this webinar, I mean master layout. I don't mean your content, I mean the look and feel of your template. Another big change, you now have these filters by category. And then we also have now divided templates into email optimized and print optimized. In the old system, all templates were basically email optimized because they were HTML based and they were optimized to be viewed on a screen. Anybody who worked with any templates that they were trying to print out, like donation acknowledgements, discovered that pretty quickly that the way it appeared on your screen wasn't always true when it printed out. Like it would print out differently than how it looked on your screen, and you'd have to kind of fiddle with it to get it to lay out correctly. So to alleviate that, we have now created a set of templates that are print optimized, and they are going to be more true. They're purposely laid out to be printed, and they will print true. There is something very, very important for you guys to know about that we'll talk about at the end of the webinar when we talk about the migration. So you can tell if it's print or email by the little colored triangle in the corner. So these are blue, they're all email. And let's see, oh, here's a print one because he's orange. When creating a new communication, all new communications, newsletters, and any form of donation acknowledgement letters are going to start from the same way. You're either going to come to your My Templates or your system templates, and you're going to select a template. Now I'm going to bifurcate, and I'm using that word because the technical team used that word to describe the difference between email and print. They said we bifurcated templates, and now bifurcated is my word of the month because I kept hearing it over and over. So now I'm going to pass that on to you, and it'll be your earworm for the rest of this month too. So I'm going to bifurcate my discussion now about newsletters and donation acknowledgement. So I'm going to talk about these two separately because there's a little bit of a difference in the process, the flow. So let's start with a newsletter. So if you come in and you are going to create a new newsletter, I can select my template or a system template. I can click on the newsletter category, come down here. If I have more, I think, was it 20 display here? If I have more than 20, I'll get a more button and I can display more. And another change we've made is these thumbnails are now going to actually display the content. Before, in the old system, it just displayed the master template. No matter, like, you change the content, you still just saw the master template file. These thumbnails will now actually display what your template actually looks like now that you've changed it. So for any of these, I would go in and pick my template, and I would select use if I was going to start a new newsletter. Now, if I want to change the template, the master look and feel and layout, then I would select edit. I'm going to go in and edit. This, what I'm about to show you, applies to all templates. We've changed the template editor. You'll notice there's some of the colors changed, and you'll notice now the widgets are over here on the left, and we've made some changes to the controls over here on the right. Basically what was happening is these templates actually have a lot of different sub tabs, and it's two tabs over here. There was content and style, and people weren't noticing those tabs and weren't realizing how many configurations they could do in these templates. So to give us more space over here to make these buttons much bigger so you can't miss them now, we moved the widgets over here to the left. The widget system still works the same as it did before, where you can grab a widget, drag it in, and drop it into the template. A couple of changes that we have made here: there is now a preview button. There's an auto save functionality. It saves every, I think, 3 seconds, 5 seconds, 10 seconds, something like that. So there is a save, but this will auto save any changes you make as well. If you go in to, let's do this one, go into edit, you still have your content and your style, but these buttons are bigger again, so that it's easier to see. We have a new image library so that when you're working with images, this one is one of my favorite parts of the new changes. I really like the new image library. So the new image library, it's easier to use to add images, find your images. You can edit images directly from within the image editor, including resizing and cropping. So you don't have to first open it in like photo editor and resize and bring it in. In addition, you can now create folders for your image gallery. Now these folders are shared by all your users. So you want to make sure that you all are coordinating across organizations to come up with a good folder system so that your employees don't run amok and suddenly create 100 folders that everybody has to navigate through. But you can add category is basically add a folder, and you can sort your images into folders. Now you add an image to a folder when you upload it. You cannot then move an image. You can't like drag this to a different folder. You'll notice like it opens up that weird image. If I go around it, there we go. No, I still can't go around it. But anyways, you can't drag and drop and move them from folders. So it's once it's in a folder, it's in a folder. And if you want it in a different folder, you'll have to delete it and then come back. So we have all the same options. You know, you can set your image widths and heights and hyperlink and different sections. So make sure you are fully navigating all these tabs and all these options because we just know that people were not noticing all of these things. People have questions about like what the frame is versus the page. And here, if we go, all right, here's my background color. I'm going to make my frame red. And so you'll notice like the frame is basically here. It's inside the text area. And that it wasn't just this one module, it was the whole page. Versus the page is the entire background. So your page is your entire canvas, and your frame is what's inside the template, the borders of the template, if that makes sense. We get that question a lot. You still can name your templates. You can come up here to change the naming. We've actually gotten rid of the codes. Templates used to require a code. There's no code now. It's just a template name. So we got rid of that. Any questions about the new template editor, image editor, working with templates? Now, one of the big changes between the email and the print is that you will see some differences. For instance, print templates. I'm going to go. We don't have any print newsletter because nobody's printing a newsletter. But if I come up here, oh, going to be so difficult. Let's see. Here we go, print. But I don't want that. Okay. Oh, demo system. There we go. So a print template, a couple of the differences between a print template and an email template is that an email template has all the spacing measured in pixels. A print template has them all measured in points, which, you know, if like you're in Microsoft Word and you can pick the font sizes in points, like 8-point font, 12-point font. So that's what points are. So the spacing is points in a print and pixels in an email. In addition, a print template has a header space and a footer space that you can dedicate. So this won't move. This is anchored to the bottom of your page, and this is anchored to the top of your page. And you can create spaces between these, but these stay anchored. So that's the difference between an email and a print template. You can still print out an email template. It's, you know, the spacing is measured in a different metric, but it's still, you know, the same. You can print it on a piece of paper, and it just doesn't have the header and body. But you can still print out an email template. You can still mail a print template, and we're going to talk about that in a minute too. So that's basically the difference between a print template and an email template. But there's a couple other functionality differences, but in terms of the template itself. So once you go in, you've created your master layout template, right? You've got your beautiful newsletter template that has all your spacing and whatnot. And now it's the 15th of the month, and you're going to send your monthly newsletter. Let's say you send your newsletter every month on the 15th. So now it's time to send a newsletter. So what you will do is you will come in and you'll use to create a new communication with that template. And again, this is a newsletter. So it's going to open up my master template, and I can go in, and this has made a copy of my master template. Any changes I make from this point on are not changing the underlying base template. If I come in here and I change this yellow color, this ugly, awful yellow color, where is my, here we go. And let's say I change it to a nice, lovely, well, let's go really different. There we go. I change it to a lovely lime green. I want my newsletter readers to be awake when they get this. This doesn't change my master template. The next time I go to the master template and I say use on that exact same template, it's still going to be yellow because I have not made any changes to the base template. I'm just changing it for this one communication. So now I can go in and I can drop in my content. So I could come in here and I could do an article as normal as I previously did. You know, I could say, great news, I can't spell, our annual gala is fast approaching, and we look forward to seeing you all there. Click the link below to read more, etc., etc. And I can go in now and I can drop in my pictures and my whole articles and format the newsletter that's going to go out this month. Then I'm going to save that. I can preview it. If I like these changes and want to make some master changes, if I want this green now to be in my master template, I could either go back and edit my master template, or I can save this as a template. And so I can save these changes. It's going to now put this in the drafts folder because this is an in-process newsletter. I'm in the newsletter flow. I know it feels like I'm still in templates, but I've actually, as soon as you pick use and click on that use button, you have left the template area and you have entered the create new communication flow. So I'm actually in the middle of making a newsletter right now. And until I click this go to next step, this will appear in the drafts folder in the template area. As soon as I click this go to next step, if I leave this without sending, it will now be in my pending. So I'm going to click go to next step, and this is going to take me into the newsletter flow. Newsletter flow mostly the same as it was under old communications. So I gotta, you know, give it a name. This is seen only by staff internally. Who's it coming from? I can link it to a campaign or a category. Who's sending it. Subject line, which will be seen by my recipients. We have added a preview button here. You can also go back and edit your content file. Again, not the template, the content file. So you can preview and edit from here. You can still add attachments, save and proceed. Oops, sorry, gotta pick my category. Tab 2, select your recipients. This still works exactly the same. There are no changes to this, so this works the same as it did in old. And then finally on the last tab, couple of changes. You will be able to see how many recipients, your subject line, your send preferences. You can send it now or send on. You'll know if you sent newsletters in the old communication that you didn't have this, you didn't see this until you hit send, and so it made it look like you couldn't schedule a newsletter until you hit send, and then it gave you the option to schedule it to go at a later date. So to make that more apparent, we've added that right here on this screen. Once this email is sent, you can be notified internally. So you can add email addresses of staff to be told, hey, your newsletters have been generated and sent. And then you can also send yourself a test email. Now you also can get a preview here, and you can also get a mobile preview. And this is new functionality as well. Any questions about the newsletter flow? No, I'm going to change this to send now. And then I'm going to hit send. And as soon as I hit send on this now, this is going to end up in my history folder because it's going to go. If I leave right now, instead, I just X out of here and go somewhere else, this is in my pending and I can go back into it. So I just went out to create new communication and going into pending. And here it is. So it's pending, it's waiting for me. I can click edit and I can go back in to finish this out to send it. And it takes me right back into the flow. If I don't want any changes there, I just need to come here, hit send now and send. All right, if everybody's feeling good about newsletters, we're going to go into donation acknowledgements. All right. When creating a new communication for donation acknowledgement, same thing, set up your template. You'll have your letter templates. It still works the same where you can go, when you create the fund program campaign, you can assign letters, letter templates to particular funds, programs, campaigns. You can do that from inside, create templates, and you can do it from configurations, configure fund, configure campaign, configure programs. That hasn't changed. What has changed now is you're going to notice here that on my templates, there's a bunch of orange bars at the bottom, and I can't really put my mouse on it because it highlights the whole thing. But you'll see that I have this general acknowledgement and there's 31 pending acknowledgements. So when I come to create new communication, I'm going to be able to see if there are any letters queued up and how many letters are queued up for each of my templates. And not all templates will have people, so I've got some templates that there's no donations waiting to be acknowledged, but I've got a whole bunch. And the ones that are waiting to be acknowledged will be at the top of the list. They'll appear at the beginning of the list here. I can go in and click process to enter the generate donation acknowledgements area, or I can just go to the send acknowledgements. Both links will take you to the same place. So you can do it either way. You can copy a donation acknowledgement letter, and I can edit, unless there are letters queued up. And then you'll notice if there's letters queued up, you can process and edit. You can't copy it. So if I have a template that I want to copy to change slightly, I got to process all the letters that are attached to it first, and then you'll be able to copy it. So just keep that in mind. We get that question a lot with people who've already switched. So if I go in here and if I click process, it's going to take me into the generate donation acknowledgements area, which starts out looking similar to the old communications, but then it gets pretty different really fast. One of the things currently it's doing that we're going to take this off. We decided to take this off. It's with the new communications, it actually holds your filters. So if you do any kind of filter and leave and come back, it still holds the last filter applied. So we're taking off because it's causing a lot of confusion. Half our clients always filter their donation acknowledgements and are searching and filtering, and half our clients never filter and search. And we tried making one half of you happy. Now we're going to try and make the other half happy. If it includes the last filter applied, including clear. So if you clear and then leave, it'll still be cleared. So keep that in mind. Now I don't have any filters. You'll see just how many donation acknowledgements I suddenly have here in my demo system. So as before, you're going to have all of your cues over here. These are your letters. You'll have a skipped column if you've got letters that you have skipped. And same as before, you can go in, you can change columns and categories here to different letters. And as before, you can go in, I'm going to pick one that only has a moderate amount. You can change your batch name. Once the letters have been generated, who internally should get notified. And we're going to talk about that in a second. And you can change the template, so I can pick particular people and change template, including skip them, or if somebody skipped, unskip them by changing template to a different template. And I can then also generate the selected items, or I can generate letters for everybody in the batch. Now I've got 10 letters here in my batch, so I'm going to generate all. And this is where things are going to start getting different. You now, in the old communications, in the same batch, you could send some of your letters by email and some by mail. You can no longer do that in the new communications. You either have to send all emails in the batch by email or print them all out and send them by mail per batch. Email templates, well, all donation acknowledgements sent by email now, whether you're sending a print letter or the email optimized template. That true statement? That's not a true statement. Yes, that is a true statement. They changed this on me recently. Now your letter template goes as an attachment. It goes as a PDF attachment. So your template does not go in the body of the email. You have the option to write the body of an email, and I'm going to show you what that looks like. But it doesn't matter if you send a print optimized or an email optimized template. The donation acknowledgement template sent by email is going to be attached as a PDF attachment. It's not going to be in the body of your email. So that's another significant change. So it's going to default to mail or email based on whether you picked a print template or an email optimized template, and also what communication preference the majority of your batch have. So I only have 3 people who don't have mail addresses. If I go into email, I only have 2. I must have picked a print template then. That's why it's defaulting to mail. So we'll start with a mail batch first. So same as before. You can't generate a batch until everybody in the batch is happy. So I got 3 people who are unhappy because they have no mailing address and they don't have an address for mail communication preference selected as yes. I still can come in and I can manually add an address if I need to, and then I can indicate if I only want to update the address for this communication. So just temporarily add this to the record, this address to the record, and then print out my letters and then delete it, or do I want to update the contact record permanently and add what I type here as the mailing address on the contact record? I still also have the option to remove individual people from the batch. This sends them back to the main queue, so they'll still be waiting. It doesn't delete their donation. It doesn't delete their donation acknowledgement letter or their need to have one generated. It just takes them out of this batch so that I can generate it. You'll notice now that everybody's happy, I now have the option to actually process and create this batch. I still have the ability to edit individual letters before sending the batch, so I can go in and maybe add personal note, and I can download individual letters as a PDF or a doc. To generate the entire batch, who is internally is going to get an email to be notified, and do I want as worded PDF? Now, when generating a batch of print letters that has less than 100 letters, your letters will be generated automatically, immediately. As soon as I hit this, it's going to pop up. If you have more than 100 letters in the batch, it's going to become a batch process, which has to work in the background. It's going to take a while to process. It could take 20 minutes to an hour. If you've got thousands of letters, it could take several hours. In which case, it's going to process offline. You can keep working in the system, and it'll send you an email to tell you those letters have been generated, which is that email address that says what email should be notified internally when letters are generated. That's what that email address is for. So who on staff should be notified, hey, your giant batch of 150 letters is ready for you to print out now. Now you notice I only had 7 letters, so I can get them automatically. I want to open it, but I can save it, and then I can come in here. It's going to, as a zip file, we're trying to find a way to make it not be a zip file because it's like 4 clicks to get to your letters because it's zipped. So we're going to try to unzip it. But in the meantime, it's a zip file. And then here are my letters. And now I can print these out and go on my merry way. And as before, and then you'll notice once I generate those, it immediately dumps me into my history folder here, and I can see those letters from here. And why is, okay, now my computer's acting naughty. Come back here, computer. Okay. Hang on 1 sec, I'm gonna have to, my Firefox just locked up, so I'm gonna have to kill it. How rude. Get back in there. So if you're not seeing my screen, it's because I had to kill Firefox, but we'll get right back in here in a second. Sorry about that. Like I said, my computer's just being so naughty today. There we go. Now it's happy again. So then I can now come in here and see this. I can view the recipients. I can download these letters again. So if I ever have to come back and reprint these letters, I can download them again. And I can now generate envelopes from here. If I want to create an email batch for my donation acknowledgement letters, and everything I'm telling you now too about creating batches applies to letters, envelopes, and labels as well. And the tributes as well. So if I'm now going to go and pick some other batch, process those letters. And again, I could also just say send acknowledgements. It'll take me right into this screen as well. So I'm in this batch. I've got 6 letters. Sure, that's a happy batch. I'm going to generate all. And now I'm going to do an email batch. And then, so I'm going to change this to email. I've got 5 people who don't have an email preference, so I can't send this batch, so I make everybody happy. So again, I can take individual people out of the batch. I can change, these people have email addresses, so I can just change it, their communication preference for email, and I can do it just for this so that I can just send this email, but their overall communication preference will remain no or not set, or I can update the record permanently so that they will be permanently changed to yes. And then if I don't have a email, I can manually add it from here. And again, do I want to add this just temporarily, just to send this donation acknowledgement, or do I want to update it permanently? Now I got all 5 are happy, and it's going to let me process this batch. For email, as I said, then this is going to go, your letter template, the one that I selected on the previous screen, is going to go as a PDF attachment. This is what's going to come in the body of the email. And you can set this default text, and I'm going to show you guys where, on the settings from main menu. But I can change this per batch. I can edit the default. Who's this coming from? And then now I can click send email. And then this is going to dump me back into my, now this one, because it hasn't finished sending yet, so the print one sent me to history because I was done. I got the file and I could print it. This is sent for processing, so I'm in the pending, you'll notice. So you do have to pay attention. Once you finish a communication, you may end up in history, you may end up in pending. If it's something that's generated or sent for processing and still has to finish processing or finish sending, like any of the email communications, you're going to end up in pending when you're done. If it's something that's delivered to you immediately, like the print files, you'll end up in history. So just, we get some questions on that too. Any questions about the flow or about any of those changes, especially donation acknowledgement letters? The group last week had a lot of questions, so you guys are making me nervous. Either you guys are like super mellow right now and like, yep, this is no biggie, Terry, or you fell asleep, or possibly you're confused. more likely asleep.
Terry, this is Shauna. Are there any changes to, I guess this would be maybe in the settings, but where you specify which template is supposed to be used for any given thing, attribute or whatever?
Nope, those are all exactly the same. So yeah,
Okay.
so when you create a new communication under your templates, and then so if I go in and edit and a system template, same thing. If you pick use or and make a copy, you can still assign funds, and so you can still assign to a fund a program campaign. And you can also do this under the configurations when you set up or edit a fund. On the last step, you can assign letter templates. Same when setting up or editing a program, same with setting up and editing a campaign, and your defaults are still the same as well, set on main menu settings. Those acknowledgement settings is also where you'll find the default text for the body of the email for email donation acknowledgements. So this is what will pre-populate. So you can, if you want to change your default text, you'll go to main menu, settings, acknowledgement settings. That's a good question. Any other questions about kind of flow, especially around donation acknowledgements? Because there are a lot of changes there. Okay, so now here's the super important stuff that you need to know. This change is so big, it's not just a simple UI change. We've changed the functionality here. We've ripped the templates apart. We've changed the template editor. We've changed the templates to bifurcated them to print and email. So this is not simply a UI change where you'll come in on Monday and your screens have changed. It actually involves us migrating your data from the old interface to the new interface, which means migrating your history of sent communications and migrating your templates. Now, in the old system, there was no print optimized templates. Everything was email optimized. Therefore, by default, all of your templates will be migrated as email optimized. If you have any templates that you would like converted to print optimized, you have to email us at support@fundly.com and give us that list and tell us, I want these templates to be print optimized, because you're planning on printing them out. And again, you can still print an email template. It's just, it may not print true, and it doesn't have the header and body, header and footer area designated. So the other thing about a print template, do I have one? Is, here we go. A print template, you can get a PDF or a doc preview. With an email optimized template, such as this one, when I preview, it's just going to open it on the screen. So it's not the end of the world. Like, the fact that your donation acknowledgements are by default going to be email optimized is not the end of the world, and doesn't mean you have to have them all converted. It's just, if you feel like you want that header footer area, you want to be able to generate the preview in PDF or doc, then it makes sense to have them converted. So you have to send us a list with the very specific file name. Our technical team are very specific. If you send me something that has one letter off, they're going to be like, I couldn't find the template. So make sure you get the name exactly the same, exactly correct. Now, if you need like all your donation acknowledgements, if you're like, I don't send donation acknowledgements via email, I send them all printed out, and I want it all 160, or here we go, 37. If I want all 37, you can just say, I want all 37 acknowledgements and all 9 tributes and all 7 tribute cards converted to print optimized. That's fine too. If it's all in a particular category, I'm not going to make you list them all one by one just to torture you. Where can I find resources or more in-depth information on configuring the acknowledgement templates to specific donation types? So Sophia asks, yes. So in the support library, we do have a full set of tutorials working with donation acknowledgement letters, including the new communications. And in there, you can find more information about linking your donation acknowledgement templates to programs, funds, campaigns, and then the default templates. I also cover that in the configuring your system for donations webinar, which I believe we have a recording of in the support library. It uses the old user communications interface. I haven't done that webinar since the new communications came out, but the process is still the same, where you go to configurations, fundraising, fund, edit or create a fund, and the last tab has the page where you can link your templates. That is the same in old and new. There's no change to those screens. So that's the first thing, is we're going to migrate you. So you can change ahead of time. Now, so here's the thing. So all of you guys, if you haven't switched over yet, will have a link under communications that says preview new communications module. You can click that. It will temporarily, it'll bring you into a screen that looks kind of like this, and there'll be two buttons at the top, and first there's one button. It says preview new communications or switch to new communications. And if you click that, it will temporarily switch you to the new communications, so you can practice and you can play with it and get used to it. And then after you're in the temporary switch, there'll be two buttons. One says like permanently switch or switch me to the new communications, and one says return to the old communications. If you click that switch me to the new communications button again, that will permanently switch your system to new communications. So you can do that between now and Monday. And we make a couple more tweaks. There might be a little bit of a delay. It might be later in the week, so you might have a small reprieve. But you can opt to switch to new communications sooner rather than later. And in fact, switching sooner benefits you, because if you have templates you want us to manually convert to print, which we have to build by hand from scratch, the sooner you get those requests in, the sooner we'll get your templates to you. Those templates, depending on how big the queue gets, it's going to take us at least 24 hours, more likely 48 hours. And once we have 200 clients we're trying to convert all at the same time, because everybody waited till the last minute, it's going to take maybe a week to get your templates. So if you want your templates sooner rather than later, don't delay, act now, convert to new communications, because I can't migrate your templates and I can't build your templates until you convert to new communications. So first thing you have to do is go in and switch yourselves to the new communications. So you can do it temporarily so that you can train your staff and get used to it. We will manually be switching you all next week, whether you're ready or not, whether you want it or not. But you can switch sooner. You can switch immediately the minute we get off this webinar, for instance, and then email me your list of demands of templates that you need converted. Your images from the image library, because it's a new image library, will also not automatically be converted. And it's actually, it's kind of a thing, a not fun thing, for us to manually move your images. So if you only have a couple of images and you can easily re-upload them, you know where they are and you can get your hands on them, it's going to be easier for you guys to re-upload your images to your image library that you need for any particular templates than for us to migrate them. But we have had some clients who said, I don't know where the original of these files are anymore. We don't have them any other place except in the old image library. Can you migrate, these 5 or 10 images for us? And in that case, yes, that's no problem. Again, send us your list of demands and your list of hostage demands of which images you need moved from the image library. And again, try to be very specific with the file names so we know which ones to grab and grab the correct ones, and we'll move those over for you. So those are kind of the big things. Is you can switch sooner rather than later, but eventually you will be switched, so ready or not. So I do strongly encourage you all to at least temporarily switch and get used to the feel of this. When you switch permanently, we also have to migrate your history. So the history will be empty and your templates will be empty. You'll only kind of see your system templates. The migration of your history and your templates to email happens pretty fast, like 20 minutes usually, unless you have a huge history, like you've sent hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of communications, and then it might take an hour or two. But it happens pretty fast. But if you immediately switch to new communications and then run to your history and notice that it's empty, don't panic. It's because it's in process of migrating, and it will take up to 20 minutes to an hour to populate, but it will end up there. And everything's going to be email optimized by default and emailed letters, oh, well, so that's another big change too, is letters in the old communications you could only print. You could only generate a hard copy in Word or PDF to print. You can now email these letters as well. So you can do a mail merge inside the system for something that's not a donation acknowledgement. Maybe it's just a, I don't know, a letter from your CEO, or just a letter in following up on somebody's case, like they need to come back in and meet with their counselor or case manager or something. You can now email these letters as well, but they're going to go as a PDF attachment for the emailed version. We're making some changes to envelopes and labels, so there's going to be a couple of tweaky changes. These will be, this envelope template right now is a little funky. We're making some tweaks to that, and also make it more, we're going to make several other sizes. Right now it's by default it's size 10 business envelope, but we're going to add few other commonly used sizes. And right now labels are only for, I think it's like Avery 5160 or something like that. You'll see it says in big letters, you can't miss it, what labels it matches, but we'll be adding a few more system templates with other Avery sizes. Any questions? I'm a little worried because you all are way more mellow about this than my last batch of people last week, so I feel like I must be forgetting to tell you something. Because you're all like, cool, no bigs, we're awesome. Either that or you're very frightened. Are you all frightened? Are you feeling good? Are you excited? You're not even excited about this. You guys are so blasé. You're like, yeah, whatever, Terry. We're not excited. That's fine. I think you're gonna like it. You're gonna like the changes. At first, they're a little extreme. Okay, well, see, Shauna's excited. Thank you, Shauna. Thank you. Now you've made me happy. I was getting a little concerned. It's like, am I gonna get hate mail after this webinar? Support tickets. So they're gonna be, we hate your changes. Leave us alone. We want our old communications. It's a big change at first. Some of the changes, especially like the fact that emailed letters go as an attachment and a little bit of the flow stuff. But the fact that you now do not have to have, oh, that's the other big change we just decided today. You're probably going to have a lot, if you've been using newsletters, you're going to have a lot of newsletter templates you no longer need because you changed you made a new template every time you sent a newsletter, basically, right? So you now have like, I have 34 in the Fundly account that I don't need. I'm like, I just need one because I can, every month I can use the same one now and just change the content. So we're going to be adding an archive function so that you can hide templates you don't need anymore because you don't have to make a new template like every time you want to send a newsletter. So that will be coming too in the next week or two. So look for that. And don't worry about those right now. If you're like, oh my God, I'm wading through 50 newsletter templates that I don't need, you'll be able to hide them very shortly. That's a new feature coming out. So I think you'll like it because you don't have to make new templates all the time and it's a little more streamlined. So it's just, and the changes in the editor, the template editor are nice. The autosave feature, I know you're all gonna like that very much because it didn't do that before. It's very easy to lose your changes. All right, guys, well, if there's no questions and no terror, no screaming in terror, then I guess we're done for the day. So a reminder again, if you hadn't seen the newsletters telling you this was going to happen, then make sure you're on the newsletter list, fundlyevent.com. Bottom of the page, you can sign up for the newsletter and also make sure we're whitelisted with your email provider and we're not going to your junk folder. Don't forget fundlyevent.com, all of our upcoming webinars. We have new, fresh, exciting webinars every week. Tomorrow is the second in the series for reports writing. We've moved to basically a mini course in report writing. The first week of the month is report writing for non-report writers. So it's all out of the box stuff. And then the second week, which is this week, is writing your own baby basic custom reports using the new Express View. So if you have not come to one of the webinars about the Express View, definitely come and check it out because I think you're going to like that. Drag and drop, super easy. Thursdays are our drop-in help forum. So if you have any questions about the new communications or about anything, you can come and talk to me tomorrow during the drop-in help. And we'll also be talking tomorrow about UJoin and our third-party integration with UJoin, which is an online advocacy and grassroots campaign platform, which is super exciting. And of course, on Fridays, we do have our drop-in form for Fundly Connect for those of you who are also using Connect for volunteer management. Otherwise, if you have any questions, concerns, email us at support@fundly.com.
Thank you.
All right, everyone. Thanks, guys. Have a great rest of your day.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.